U.S. Military Assistance Command Vietnam was a joint service command of the United States Department of Defense. MACV was created on 8 February 1962, in response to the increase in United States military assistance to South Vietnam. MACV was first implemented to assist the Military Assistance Advisory Group Vietnam, controlling every advisory and assistance effort in Vietnam, but was reorganized on 15 May 1964 and absorbed MAAG Vietnam to its command when combat unit deployment became too large for advisory group control. MACV was disestablished on 29 March 1973. The first commanding general of MACV, General Paul D. Harkins, was also the commander of MAAG Vietnam, and after reorganization was succeeded by General William C. Westmoreland in June 1964, followed by General Creighton W. Abrams and General Frederick C. Wayand. MACV Component Commands. Major component commands of MACV were United States Army Vietnam, I Field Force Vietnam, II Field Force Vietnam, 24th Corps, 3rd Marine Amphibious Force, Naval Forces Vietnam, 7th Air Force, 5th Special Forces Group, Civil Operations and Revolutionary Development Support, Studies and Observations Group, Field Advisory Element MACV, Naval Forces Vietnam, in contrast to the Carrier Amphibious and Naval Gunfire Support Forces and, at least during early 1965, the Coastal Patrol Force, which Commander 7th Fleet directed. The Navy's forces within South Vietnam were operationally controlled by COMUS-MACV. Initially, General William C. Westmoreland exercised this command through the Chief Naval Advisory Group. However, the increasing demands of the war required a distinct operational rather than an advisory headquarters for naval units. As a result, on 1 April 1966, Naval Forces Vietnam was established to control the Navy's units in the 2, 3, and 4th Corps tactical zones. This eventually included the major combat formations, Coastal Surveillance Force, River Patrol Force, and Riverine Assault Force. The latter unit formed the naval component of the Joint Army-Navy Mobile Riverine Force. Commander and Naval Forces Vietnam also controlled the naval support activity Saigon, which supplied naval forces in the 2, 3, and 4th Corps areas. Naval support activity Da Nang provided logistics support to all American forces in the 1st Corps area of responsibility, where the predominant Marine presence demanded a naval supply establishment. NSA Da Nang was under the operational control of Commander 3rd Marine Amphibious Force. Commanders. The commander, U.S. Military Assistance Command Vietnam, was known by the abbreviation COMUS-MACV. COMUS-MACV was in one sense the top person in charge of the U.S. military on the Indo-Chinese peninsula. However, in reality, the CINCPAC and the U.S. ambassadors to Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia also had top person in charge status with regard to various aspects of the war's strategy. Deactivation. With the signing of the Paris Peace Accords, all American and third country forces were to be withdrawn within 60 days of the ceasefire. MACV was therefore disbanded on 29 March 1973. Defense Attache Office. The Defense Attache Office Saigon was organized according to requirements established by the Joint Chiefs of Staff (CINCPAC) and MACV, and was activated on 28 January 1973. DAO Saigon was a unique organization. It performed the traditional functions of a defense attaché, managed American military affairs in Vietnam after the ceasefire, including the programs for the support of South Vietnam's armed forces, administered procurement contracts in support of the RVNAF, and furnished housekeeping support to Americans remaining in Vietnam after the ceasefire. Aside from the support of the RVNAF, it reported on operational matters, such as violations of the ceasefire, and produced intelligence information on which subsequent decisions concerning the military assistance program and American interests in Southeast Asia could be based. The DAO occupied the offices turned over to it by the MACV adjacent to Tan Son Nhut Airport, and most of its employees and officials conducted their work from those offices. Small field offices were located in Da Nang, Pleikus, Kien Hon, Nha Trang, Bien Hoa, Long Bin, Nhab, Thong Tam, Bint Huy, and Can Tho, to perform the traditional representational and information collecting functions of military attaches. 5 professional attaches, 2 Army, 2 Air Force, and 1 Navy, were assigned to the DAO with offices in the United States Embassy, Saigon. The senior member of this group was the Assistant Defense Attaché, an Army colonel who reported to the Defense Intelligence Agency in Washington through attaché channels. The attaches made frequent visits to the field where they observed RVNAF units and activities and reported those observations to the Defense Attaché, and to Washington. The largest element in the Operations and Plans Division was the Intelligence Branch. The chief of the Intelligence Branch was responsible for American military intelligence activities in the Republic of Vietnam. He reported directly to the ambassador, and the defense attaché coordinated with RVNAF intelligence agencies and other U.S. intelligence activities in South Vietnam, and, in intelligence channels, reported simultaneously on most matters to USSAG, CINCPAC, and the Defense Intelligence Agency. The Communications and Electronics Division had functions which, like those of the Operations and Plans Division, included support of U.S. military activities as well as continued military assistance to RVNAF. The Communications and Electronics Division supervised a contract which provided communications for DAO, the American Embassy, and other U.S. agencies. The division also gave technical support, through contractors, to RVNAF military communications systems. It also provided liaison and assistance to the RVNAF Joint General Staff and the ARVN Signal Department. 3 divisions within DAO managed the complex military assistance programs for the ARVN, the VNAF, and the Vietnamese Navy, the Army, Air Force, and Navy divisions. Despite its broad responsibilities, DAO was authorized only 50 military and 1,200 civilians. It was also told to plan for an early reduction in strength and disestablishment, the latter expected to occur within a year. To accomplish its mission while planning on phasing out, DAO had to employ contractors to perform many functions. The contracts, however, were also to be reduced in number and scope throughout the year. When DAO Saigon became operational upon the disestablishment of MACV, no fewer than 383 separate contracts were on the books with a total value of $255 million. Over 23,000 people were employed by contractors in South Vietnam, of whom over 5,000 were Americans, 16,000 were Vietnamese, and the remainder were third-country nationals. By mid-year of 1973 the total was reduced by half. More than half the American contract employees were involved in training programs for the RVNAF. Of these, more than half were involved in aircraft maintenance, another large group was in communications and electronics, and the rest worked in technical fields ranging from vehicle repair and overhaul to ship overhaul and maintenance. Although most contract employees were located in the Saigon region, sizable groups were at the air bases at Da Nang in Military Region 2 at Pleiku, Phuket, and Phan Rang, and at Binh Thuy, the VNAF air base near Can Tho in Mr. 4. The ceasefire agreement in Vietnam signaled the end of the American advisory effort. The senior officials of Dow avoided offering operational advice to the Vietnamese with whom they worked intimately and continuously. The technical assistance provided by the military and senior civilian officials of Dow and by the contractors was essential to the RVNAF's modernization and expansion. But the South Vietnamese military would get no advice on military operations, tactics, or techniques of employment. MACV Headquarters, Dow Compound. The original MACV headquarters were collocated with MAAG at 660R in Hung Thao, Colin, but in May 1962 were moved to 137 Pasteur Street in central Saigon. The TRN Hung Thao site subsequently became the headquarters of Republic of Korea Armed Forces in Vietnam. As the U.S. military presence in South Vietnam grew, MACV quickly outgrew these quarters, and on the 2nd of July 1966 construction of a new purpose-built facility adjacent to Tan Son Nhut Airport and the ARVN Joint General Staff compound was commenced. Due to the size of this facility, the new headquarters were labeled Pentagon East. Following the closure of MACV and the establishment of the Dow, the MACV headquarters became the Dow Compound. Fall of Saigon and Operation Frequent Wind. The two major evacuation points chosen for Operation Frequent Wind were the Dow Compound for American civilian and Vietnamese evacuees and the United States Embassy, Saigon for embassy staff. At 3:30 on the 29th of April 1975 a PAVN rocket hit Guard Post 1 at the Dow Compound, instantly killing Marine Corporals McMahon and Judge. They would be the last American ground casualties in Vietnam. At 13:50, two UH-1 Huey helicopters carrying General Gary and Colonel Gray landed at the Dow Compound. During their approach to the compound, they experienced a first-hand view of the PAVN's firepower as they shelled nearby Tan Son Nhut Airport with ground, rocket, and artillery fire. They quickly established an austere command post in preparation for the arrival of the Marine CH-53s and the ground security force. At 15:06, a first wave of 12 CH-53s from HMH-462 loaded with the BLT-2 quarters command groups Alpha and Bravo, and Company F and reinforced Company H arrived in the Dow Compound, and the Marines quickly moved to reinforce the perimeter defenses. The second wave of 12 CH-53s from HMH-463 landed in the Dow Compound at 15:15, bringing in the rest of the BLT. A third wave of 2 CH-53s from HMH-463 and 8 USAF CH-53Cs and 2 USAF HH-53s arrived shortly afterwards. Alpha Command Group 2 rifle companies, and the 81mm mortar quarter platoon were deployed around the Dao headquarters building and its adjacent landing zones. Companies E and F respectively occupied the northern and southern sections between the Dao headquarters and the Dao Annex. Bravo Command Group, consisting of 2 rifle companies and the 106 mm recoilless rifle platoon, assumed responsibility for security of the Dao Annex and its adjoining landing zones. Company G occupied the eastern section of the Annex, while Company H assumed control of the western section. The HMH 462 CH-53s loaded with evacuees and left the compound. They unloaded the first refugees delivered by Operation Frequent Wind at 1540. At about 1730, General Carey ordered the extraction of 3rd Platoon, Company C of BLT-19, which had been landed at the Dao compound on the 25th of April to assist the Marine Security Guard. Between 1900 and 2100, General Carey transferred 3 platoons of BLT-2 quarters into the embassy compound to provide additional security and assistance for the embassy. At 1930, General Carey directed that the remaining elements guarding the Annex be withdrawn to Dao headquarters, where the last of the evacuees would await the flight. Once completed, the new defensive perimeter encompassed only LZ-36 and the Alamo. By 2030, the last evacuees had been loaded onto helicopters. At 2250, with the evacuation of the landing control teams from the Annex and Alamo completed, General Carey ordered the withdrawal of the ground security forces from the Dao compound. At 0:30 on the 30th of April, thermite grenades, having been previously placed in selected buildings, ignited as 2 CH-53s left the Dao parking lot carrying the last elements of 2nd Battalion 4th Marines.